It was a hot Saturday afternoon, the kind where the only thing that mattered was the sound of water splashing and the sun warming your skin. I had just finished mowing the lawn, and after a long week of keeping the peace, I was finally going to enjoy some downtime in my backyard pool. I grabbed a cold drink from the fridge and tossed my pool float, some inflatable toys, and a beach ball into the pool. Duke, my loyal dog, watched from the deck, probably trying to figure out how he could jump in without getting into trouble. But just as I kicked back in my lounge chair, I noticed something strange. Movement on the other side of the fence. There she was, Karen Delaney, the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood and HOA enforcer. I rolled my eyes. Karen was always poking her nose into everyone else's business, especially if it involved violations she could find people for. I didn't think much of it until I saw her creeping around my pool area, grabbing my pool toys, my favorite float, the beach ball, and even a couple of inflatable rings. "What the hell is she doing?" I muttered, sitting up. Before I could react, Karen noticed me and gave me one of her signature, overly sweet smiles. "Oh, Daniel," she said, her voice dripping with false cheerfulness. "I'm just borrowing these. You know, for the HOA pool party next weekend. I thought I'd get a head start." I stood up, walking toward her. "Borrowing? Those are mine, Karen. I don't remember giving you permission to take anything." "Oh, it's for the good of the neighborhood," she insisted, pulling the toys over the fence. "You know how we all pitch in for these things." "No, Karen, those are mine. Get them back." Karen paused, her smile faltering. Then she did something I didn't expect. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. "Daniel Ross is threatening me," she said into the phone, her voice trembling with fake panic. "He's trying to stop me from doing a community service project." I couldn't believe it. Karen had stolen my things and then tried to call the cops on me. Little did she know I was no ordinary resident. I was the retired police chief. And now it was time for Karen to learn a lesson she'd never forget. I could feel my blood starting to boil. Karen had crossed the line, and this time, she wasn't going to get away with it. As she spoke to the dispatcher, I walked calmly toward her, shaking my head. She was still holding my pool toys hostage, making herself out to be the victim. "Ma'am, I'm afraid you're going to have to speak to the officer on duty," the 911 dispatcher said over the phone. "Can you tell me what's going on?" Karen immediately started her act. "Yes, I'm being threatened by my neighbor. He's preventing me from helping with the HOA's pool party. I interrupted her, my voice clear and firm. "Karen, you're stealing my property, and now you're making up lies." Her eyes widened as she turned toward me, realizing for the first time that I wasn't just some guy she could push around. You're not going to get away with this," she stammered, still holding the toys. "You'll see." I crossed my arms and took a deep breath. "You can keep lying to the dispatcher, but you're not going to get away with this. Those pool toys are mine. You can give them back now, or we can wait for the officers to arrive." Karen hesitated, clearly confused about what was happening. The police weren't going to back her up. Not when they found out who I was. I could see the moment the reality hit her. She had made a huge mistake. Just as she opened her mouth to continue her tirade, I stepped closer, putting a hand on the fence. "Karen," I said calmly, "you're going to hand those back to me, or you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. I'm not some random guy. I used to run this town's police department." Her eyes widened. The phone in her hand trembled. Wait, you're Daniel Ross, the police chief?" I nodded slowly. "That's right. And right now, I think it's best if you give me my things back before I make this official." I could see her scrambling for an excuse, but it was too late. Now it was time for me to take control of the situation. For a moment, Karen just stood there blinking at me, the weight of her mistake slowly sinking in. Her grip on my pool toys loosened, but she didn't make a move to return them. Her phone was still pressed to her ear, but her voice had lost its earlier panic. "Dispatch, she started, but I cut her off. "I've heard enough," I said, my tone more authoritative now. "If you're going to keep calling 911, maybe I should give them a reason to show up." Karen's face went pale. She stared at the phone in her hand, then back at me, finally realizing the gravity of the situation. I could almost hear the wheels turning in her head as she tried to come up with a new angle. She cleared her throat, her voice now shaky. Uh, I didn't mean to take them, Daniel. It's just for the HOA, For the community event, Stop, I interrupted. You don't get to lie your way out of this. You took my property, and now you're trying to use the police as a tool for your own selfish agenda. I leaned over the fence, making sure my stance was firm, and my eyes locked with hers. You've been running around this neighborhood acting like you own the place, Karen, trying to enforce rules no one agreed to, fining people for nonsense, and now you're stealing from me. I'm done playing nice. Her hands trembled slightly, and she pulled the phone away from her ear, not sure if she should hang up or continue the call. But before she could decide, I stepped forward and reached over the fence, grabbing the toys from her hands with ease. You'll hand them back to me now, or I'm calling the cops on you. I'm done with your little power trips, I said, emphasizing every word. Karen's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She was speechless. I'm calling it, I said. You've had your fun. Now I'm taking back control. Karen's silence was deafening. I had taken back my pool toys and was about to walk inside when I heard her muttering under her breath. She wasn't done with this just yet. You don't know what you're doing, Daniel, she spat. You think you can just intimidate me? You've got no power here anymore. The HOA is behind me. I paused at the door to my house, turning back slowly. That's where you're wrong, Karen. You've been pushing people around because you thought you could. You've been playing the role of some neighborhood tyrant. But right now, I'm the one with power, not you. Her face twisted with frustration, but she was quiet. She hadn't expected me to take a stand like this. I went inside, but I wasn't about to let it end here. I knew what needed to be done. Karen wasn't just a nuisance anymore. She was a danger to the community, and it was time for her to face the consequences of her actions. I grabbed my phone and dialed Mike, my old detective friend, who'd helped me before when things got tricky. I briefed him on the situation, filling him in on the stolen property, her false 911 call, and all the HOA corruption I had seen firsthand. Mike, this is getting out of hand, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Karen's been running roughshod over the neighborhood. She's not just a nuisance anymore. She's breaking laws, and she needs to be held accountable. Mike was quick to respond. I'll get a team together. We'll make sure she's stopped for good. I could feel the weight lifting off my shoulders as I hung up the phone. It wasn't just about the pool toys anymore. It was about restoring balance to the neighborhood. Karen had abused her power for far too long, and now it was time for her to face the music. The next day, Mike and his team showed up early. It was a quiet morning, the kind where nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but I knew things were about to change. Mike had already spoken to a few residents who had dealt with Karen's antics over the years. Word spread quickly, and they were all ready to see her finally held accountable. I met Mike at the end of the street, and he wasted no time. We've got a few charges lined up already, he said. The stolen property, the false 911 call, and we're digging into the HOA's finances. Looks like Karen's been making deals under the table with contractors. I raised an eyebrow. You mean she's been stealing more than just pool toys? Mike nodded. It's a lot more than that. The HOA's been taking bribes for construction projects, pushing fines, and funneling money into her personal accounts. We're going to make sure it all comes out. I felt a surge of satisfaction. For the first time, I wasn't just dealing with a petty thief. This was a full-blown corruption ring, and Karen was at the center of it all. We made our way to Karen's house, and I could see her through the window, pacing nervously. She knew something was up, but it wasn't until Mike knocked on her door that she realized the jig was up. Karen opened the door, her eyes widening when she saw us standing there. What is this? What are you doing here? She demanded. Mike flashed his badge. Karen Delaney, you're under arrest for theft, fraud, and making false statements to the police. We've got a lot to discuss. Her face drained of color. No, this can't be happening. I didn't do anything wrong. You did plenty, I said, stepping forward, and it's time you face the consequences. As Karen was led away in cuffs, I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. The neighborhood was finally free from her reign of terror. I walked back to my house, the pool toys still floating calmly in the water, and sat down with a smile. For once, peace had been restored.